When it comes to food, something I care deeply about, and nutrition and mental health, I truly believe it's up to the individual what they consume. But here's what I do. I can guide you as someone who has studied nutrition to the best food for the diet that you're eating. But because I lived through being told what I needed to do based on my skin color, I will never tell you you can't eat a food. But I will say, hey, could you eat less of this? Can we add more of that? And balance it up for you so that it's best for your mental health.
All right, everyone, welcome to my favorite show, Heal Thyself, and hopefully yours. What a great show we have. You know, a few months ago, well, probably a year ago, I did a show with Dr. Uma Naidu. She's a nutritional psychiatrist. And if you recall the first episode, which went really big and well received in the community, it was about how certain foods that we're eating are affecting our anxiety levels and what foods can we eat to reduce anxiety levels, but also overall mental health. Because it's not a surprise, we know that foods can affect our mental health. Well, she goes over very specific ones, how to eat them, how often to eat them. So it was a really good show. Today we're getting part two, and part two is going to be added and more expansive. We're going into more topics. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, and it's going to be really important because guess what? All of you hopefully eat food every day. So we want to make the right decisions on which ones to eat. So we're going to learn what are the most important foods and the different conditions that these foods can affect. What does a really good plate look like? What should be the standard that you're looking for when you're designing your plate day to day? How should it look, right? And what's a starting point? What's the link between anxiety and our metabolism? We go a little bit more into that, how what we're eating affects our metabolism that can affect our anxiety. And also, how do we know when our metabolism is off? It's not just you're gaining weight. There's a lot of other cardinal signals that are being shown in the body before we gain weight. So we want to make sure we catch those early on. Really important. We talk about one of my favorite topics ever, dark chocolate, where we learn about the benefits and how to shop for it. And also we learn about how to use the gut microbiome in order to reduce stress and improve our mental health. How do we optimize those bacteria? What are the very specific foods that we need to be eating? How many times a day? We're going into that nitty-gritty as well. How sugar can affect your gut and the beauty, the skin, the radiance, the glowing, the skin issues. All very important. How we can heal ourselves with food. It's going to be a really good one. If you know her work, she's very evidence-based. She's giving us the newest updates on all of the stuff that we need to be doing. I can't wait to get this episode. So relax. Or maybe if you're cleaning up your house or maybe doing something, put up the volume. You're going to have a notebook right by you so you can run and just take some notes, or maybe you take them on your phone, because this is going to be one that you're going to be always referring to. So get ready and enjoy. Is the best diet vegan? Or is the best diet carnivore?
Oh my goodness. Dr. G, you are putting me on the spot, but you know what? I like it. I like it because I've been thinking a lot about this. I've been thinking about the struggles that my clients come in with and what I hear even on social media with questions. I'm going to share my position. I am a lifelong vegetarian because my family happened to be vegetarian. I'm married to someone who eats anything. I cook anything. As a chef, I was trained to cook anything. I just don't consume it. But that belief system comes from how I was raised. It's not a judgment of the food. But as I've worked on myself in my own therapy and as I've come to terms with my own life, my own traumas, one of the things that I have uncovered is that I care deeply about food equality and food autonomy. And let me share what I mean about that, and I will answer your question. I grew up, before I moved to study in Boston, I grew up in South Africa, Indian family, but grew up in apartheid and lived through segregation based on the color of my skin. And when you're a child, you don't really understand why you can't go to certain theme parks, you can't go to certain places because it's the color of your skin. You ask your parents, and they protect you as best they can. And when I moved away and began to study, I realized that not having autonomy to decide what you can do, can I go here, can I go there, and to live in segregation had a lot of deep roots in my belief system that I had to work through. When it comes to food, something I care deeply about, and nutrition and mental health, I truly believe that it's up to the individual what they consume. But here's what I do and where I can help. if you choose to ask for my help. I can guide you as a nutritional psychiatrist, as a chef, as an author, as someone who has studied nutrition, to the best food for the diet that you're eating. But because I lived through being told what I needed to do based on my skin color, I will never tell you you can't eat a food. But I will say, hey, could you eat less of this? Can we add more of that? And balance it up for you so that it's best for your mental health. But I really don't like being black and white about it, to pick on something I had to grow up living through, but also be divided because I think it's divisive and it doesn't help people.
Yeah, I mean, for anything, right? Like
For anything.
Just dogmatic.
Not just food.
Black versus white, not just food. And being open to the Venn diagram and maybe some stuff that's in the middle, right?
That's right.
Thank you, Birch Living, for sponsoring today's video. Birch makes mattresses that are crafted with organic and natural materials that are sourced sustainably here in the United States. The Birch mattress was also just awarded the best mattress of 2023 by US News. Out of 340 mattresses, this was the best one out there following expert testing. Now, their mattresses are also made free of polyurethane foam. Also, you're sleeping with a peace of mind. You know you or your children are not inhaling these nasty chemicals that can affect our health over time. I've had my Birch mattress for more than 2 years now. I love it. I even got one from my dad. He loves it too. With your Birch mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 25-year warranty. The best part of all this is that Birch delivers right to your door, for you in the United States. They also offer an in-home setup and removal to make your buying experience as convenient as possible. Comes rolled up in a box, super easy to use. Each Birch mattress comes with 2 of their Eco-Rest pillows made from recycled materials. They're breathable and better for the environment. I love my Birch mattress. I already know that you're gonna too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Birch Living. Go to birchliving.com/healthyself to get 20% off of a Birch mattress and 2 free Eco-Rest pillows. And for your little ones, check out Birch Kids Natural Mattresses with a 2023 Good Housekeeping Parenting Award winning label. All right, everyone, let's talk about AG1. If you are a longtime listener, you know that I love AG1. I've been drinking it for about 2 years now. It's my morning go-to green drink. I started drinking it because I wanted something to help me boost my energy throughout the day and keep me overall focused. When I started drinking AG1, I could feel a real difference in my health, especially when it comes to my energy. I was getting all of those nutrients early on in the day, especially when I'm on the go. That's because AG1 is a foundational nutritional supplement, and it supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and my favorite this time of year, immune support. In 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition. It's continuously been refining its formula to create a smarter, better, and elevated baseline for your health. Just one delicious scoop, and you're getting probiotics, digestive enzymes for overall gut support, magnesium, B vitamins for energy, adaptogens to balance your stress levels, vitamin C, and zinc for your immune health. If you want to take ownership over your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs. This is good if you're going back home for the holidays. You got some green drinks because you know you ain't going to be eating the way you used to, right? Getting all those nutrients in. You'll probably be indulging. I love the travel packs. Go to drinkag1.com/heal-thyself. That's drinkag1.com/heal-thyself. Check it out and get your health boosted up. I've seen people who eat strictly plant-based who do very well. They are
Lots of people,
thriving
some
for
great
many
athletes who
years.
are. Yep.
Some great athletes,
Yep.
and people fall apart on it too.
Exactly.
Same with carnivore.
I see the same thing.
Same with carnivore.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your perspective, what is a really good plate look like? What does a really good plate? What's it? First of all, let's start with the basics. How should our plates look, and where's the starting point?
Right. The starting point, I feel, in order to be successful, are 2 things. One is to understand it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to eat a certain way this weekend and cure your anxiety, but you are doing a powerful thing by looking at your plate. The second is when you look at your plate, I want a good component of that, at least 50%, to be your plant-based foods, your fiber-rich foods, your plants, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, cruciferous vegetables, one of my favorites, and really pile those up, the leafy greens, all of the stuff that people kind of roll their eyes and think, oh, they're not important, but they are. Then I want you to think of your clean proteins. What could they be? They could be a steak if that's what you eat. It could be chicken. I'm going to talk to you and tell you to try, if you can, to get grass-fed, pasture-raised, if you can. But I'd much rather you eat a piece of chicken than a chicken nugget. The principle is eat the food, not a processed version of it. For me, it could be tofu. It could be some crispy chickpeas. It could be some variation. It could be tempeh. And then the other component I want you to pay attention to are your healthy fats. Because your healthy fats are from avocado. They could be from, you could add that in with your salmon if you're doing that. But the principle is healthy fats. Could be olive oil. You will be interested to know that I didn't say, carbohydrates, because the vegetables are a healthy form of carbohydrates. So you covered there. Now, grains are important. It's the type of grains that we eat. The grains in processed slice of bread are very different from a little bit of quinoa, a little bit of barley, some sort of whole grain that's cooked and added to your meal. Very important for the fiber as well. So that's how I want you to think about your plate in absolute simple terms. And once we talk further, we build up on certain foods to help your condition.
Powerful, because most of our plates look like half or more of carbohydrates, some sort of carbohydrates.
Right.
And then the rest, some protein and maybe some color in the greens as
That's right.
just
Maybe
decorations.
You are so correct there.
Right.
We tend to load the other way. And when you say carbohydrate, it's often the things that we love, the rice, the pasta, the more starchy vegetables, which certainly sometimes the way that they cook matters. But our plates tend to be a little lopsided. So all I want us to do is let's re-envision that. Doesn't mean you can't have it, just have less of it and more of something else, because then you're going to feel satiated.
So then let me ask you a question. If there's a plate and I go, I'm a healthy eater, like I'm not going to eat processed foods, but 80 or 70% of my plate is this brown rice pasta or chickpea pasta, and then I'm going to have a steak or tofu and some green and a little bit of greens, is that still too much carbohydrates?
So let me answer this by saying the following. It could be depending on your metabolism, and that's one of the things I talk about in Calm Your Mind with Food, because there's this real interaction we're understanding with research between anxiety and your metabolism. So let's take a step back for a second. The pastas that are made from chickpea or brown rice, no harm in eating them. You might want to still consume less of them because they're made with sort of processed and refined flours, but they're made to be more protein, a healthier version than just straight the white pasta that we all eat and love. But if you have less of it and you load that up with more tomatoes, rich in lycopene, more things like spinach, more colorful veggies, pieces of chicken, whatever you like to eat your pasta with, that may be a way of still feeling satiated, but eating less of that more high glycemic, potentially less healthy carbs. So it's not that you can't eat it. I would still want you to monitor a little bit of where you're at with that. And we work with people to work on the portion that they can eat so that they become over time metabolically a little bit more healthy. But by filling in that plate with the colors that your body and your gut needs, the healthy fats, satiating to you as well, those things, help you feel less hungry and also even out your blood sugar so that you ultimately are less anxious.
Is anxiety a big piece of it being driven by metabolic dysfunction, unregulated blood sugar?
Yes. It turns out that the brain has to interact with the metabolism of our body, right? The brain interacts with the immune system, with the endocrine system, with the autonomic nervous system, and more in dealing with metabolism. But here's something that really blew my mind. The roots of anxiety are located in similar centers in the brain where metabolism is interacting, the amygdala and the hippocampus. So it turns out that if we have if in simple terms, it's more complicated than this, but in simple terms, if your metabolism is off, you are going to feel more anxious. And one of the ways to think about those plates of food is what's going to help my metabolism settle, improve, move away from potentials for metabolic syndrome. one of the things a study showed, it was pretty recent in the last several years, was that most Americans are metabolically unfit, about 88% of us. It's not has less to do with weight or size of body, but actual metabolism. And so even a slim person a slender person could be less metabolically healthy. Because there are things like visceral fat, which are not visible, but surround the organs. So these things have become important. And I've really learned to understand anxiety much more deeply through the pandemic because I saw so many people with it. We know that rates have increased tremendously post-pandemic, during and post-pandemic. In fact, Zoloft went on shortage during the early part of the pandemic because there were so many new prescriptions for anxiety. So it's all related.
And we think about, like, we have a really sugary or high carb, processed carb meal.
Yeah.
And we have that giant spike and we have all this energy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, our hands are shaking, we have so much energy, and
That's
then we
right.
crash so badly.
Right.
And it's like, that's a microcosm. Like, this doesn't happen often, but if I was to go to like a Sunday dinner or something and it was there,
Yeah.
I'm so sensitive to it that I would feel that spike.
That's right.
And I'm like, whoa, I'm really have all this energy. Let's go climb a mountain. And then it comes down and I'm just crashing. And it's sort of like that anxious spike, depressive spike,
Right.
anxious spike, depressive. So I can imagine if this is part of the diet, a lot of people are really confusing, like, what's wrong with my brain? I'm so anxious. What's wrong with my brain? I'm so depressed.
Right.
Without understanding, you're just spiking and falling, spiking and falling.
You are so correct. They are not accounting for that metabolism part, which we now understand is so much more linked to our mental well-being. So we have these up and down spikes. Fiber can be your friend because the more times you are including fiber in your meals, from those plant-based foods, beans, nuts, legumes, healthy whole grains, it's going to even out the blood sugar. And that's why the idea of that pasta becomes important. Because if you're having a half or 3/4 of a plate, because I've also heard people say, Dr. G, oh, this is chickpea pasta, I can have the whole box.
Yeah.
I've heard people say this, and it's usually the portion is way too much for you at that one meal. But if you had less of it and added in veggies and added in protein and healthy fats, you would actually be more satiated and have your blood sugar be at an even keel. I really like how you explain that because it's exactly the thing people are missing with when they're feeling anxious. It may not be the only thing because it's not the same for every person, but it's a big driver that we have control over because we control what we eat.
You guys know I'm always on the lookout to strengthen my immune system and gut health. Two really important things because they're interchangeable. The strength of your gut health reflects the strength of your immune system. They're always communicating back and forth. Now, you want to make sure that you're optimizing these because they're going to leak into your fitness and your metabolism and enhancing your skin and your hair and radiance. Everything is playing into each other. Well, Amra Colostrum is one of the new and one of my favorite products out there because it has research. Right? It's not just a product coming out of left field that it has a lot of marketing dollars. It has research to it. Now, my gut is very sensitive, and I just went away on vacation to another country, and I brought 10 packets of Amra Colostrum, and I took it every single day because I knew with a sensitive gut, usually when I travel to other countries, I will get food poisoning. I didn't get food poisoning once. And it was one of the main thing I use. I use a little bit more vitamin C and some immune enhancers, but this was the thing that was specific to protecting my gut. Why? Well, colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, and it contains all the essential nutrients for our bodies in order to thrive. Amra Colostrum is a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum that's harnessed over 400 living bioactive nutrients that help rebuild the barriers of your body and fuel cellular health for a host of research-backed health benefits. It strengthens your immunity, helps your metabolism, helps reduce inflammation in the body, helps fortify the gut, ultimately activating downstream hair growth and skin radiance, the things we look for in the beauty industry, right? But it's also good for fitness, performance, and recovery. Anti-aging benefits. Amra Colostrum is a premium bovine colostrum concentrate, and unlike any other product on the market, it's wholly natural, sustainably sourced, and was developed by the highest integrity from start to finish. And the beautiful thing is that Amra has worked out a special offer for you, the Heal Thyself audience. You're going to receive 15% off of your first order. What you do is go to tryamra.com tryarm.com/DRG to get 15% off of your first order. That's tryarmra.com/DRG. Check it out. The holiday season is here. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, and I get it. November, December has a lot of demands to the body. It's got a lot of end-of-year tasks when it comes to work, holiday preparations, gift shopping, travels, family get-togethers. We know how those could be, right? Relentless sources of stress. Well, breathe easy, because Bioptimizers has Stress Guardian, and it is out. It's the latest scientific breakthrough by this company. It's one of my favorite ones across the board. It's the genius behind Magnesium Breakthrough. You heard me talk about this one a lot. A lot of you went and bought Magnesium Breakthrough. A lot of you wrote me DMs saying it's one of your favorite products that you use. Yes, now they came out with a stress formula, and it's packed with a blend of 14 adaptogenic herbs that help regulate your stress response naturally, granting you control over this holiday stress that you are about to go into. We know that. With daily use, Stress Guardian becomes your personal shield against seasonal tension, enhancing both your mental and physical well-being. So say goodbye to just surviving. The holiday season is about thriving with the Stress-Free Guardian. To get a head start on managing your holiday stress, visit stressguardian.com/DRG. Use the promo code DRG10 for 10% off of your first order. Bioptimizers is so confident in their products that they offer a risk-free 365-day money-back guarantee. Discover the secret to peace on Earth this holiday season, and it starts with reducing your stress with Stress Guardian by Bioptimizers. Visit stressguardian.com/DRG. Can I ask you, do you believe that there'll be a day where psychiatrists sit down and they say, okay, I hear you, but let's explore your metabolism.
Right.
Let's explore your blood sugar before we write this prescription. Is that ever going to happen?
It's interesting, Dr. G, because, we at the hospitals, we do lab tests for checking people's metabolism because we've known for a very long time that there are psychotropic medications, especially things like antipsychotic medications, that actually impair metabolism. We check the labs. We don't necessarily discuss nutrition, and it's a real gap in our overall system. I think, and I hope more of my colleagues are trying to address it, but I can't say it's happening yet. I would love to see this happen. I would love to see us, if someone needs, because there are people who are that ill who need those medications. I'm not against that. I think we should. But why not do it with lifestyle measures and offer them ways to eat healthier, to exercise, to hydrate, to do things that can help them fend off that weight gain or deal with the side effects of those medications. It is honestly, in my opinion, the healthier, more comprehensive way to practice psychiatry, because I think, I know one of the things that drove me into pioneering this field of nutritional psychiatry is the fact that we were learning all these side effects, and we were checking off boxes like someone's weight, calculating a BMI. But that's it. It ended there, and then it was straight to, let me discuss the side effects of the medication with you, and here's your prescription.
Yeah.
I'll electronically send it to CVS, and this is how you should take it. There was a huge, and there still is a huge gap, but I can't blame my colleagues because we're not trained that way.
For sure. And that's what it is. It's a toolkit that's given.
That's right.
When someone's listening and they go, okay, I feel like I've eaten like this for a while. I'm trying to eat healthier.
Yeah.
How do we know, what are the real signs physically and mentally that our metabolism is not on the right track? It's off.
It's some of the stuff you and I have talked about, brain fog, not being able to focus, feeling low in energy, or feeling buzzed, feeling like you can never relax, you can never settle down. Even when you go to bed, your mind is racing. It could be poor sleep. It could be a change in your appetite. You talk about the chickpea pasta. Well, you go and you make your healthy meal with the chickpea pasta, and you're like, well, I had that, but I'm still hungry. I need more. So when you notice that, you need more food than you usually did a while back, and there's not enough to satiate you, you don't feel full, that's usually a signal that you may have developed some elements of leptin resistance, which is the hormone that controls and tells us when we are full. It could be a sign it's not the only thing, but it could be that, you're now consuming more food because your body doesn't feel satiated
Yeah.
at that point.
How do we become leptin resistant?
So leptin is the hormone that helps to tell our bodies, tell the cells in our body that we've eaten enough. So stop eating. So when we do what we do, which is tend to consume the standard American diet, which is called SAD for a reason, and we're eating processed, ultra-processed junk foods and fast foods and a lot of foods with a lot of sugar in them, our body starts to change. We start to develop inflammation, many things change. But one of the things that changes is our cells no longer listen to what the leptin is telling them. And they're like, I'm still hungry. I want more. And that's really called leptin resistance. So you eat your plate of food and you're like, I'm not hungry, and you eat more stuff. Or you finish your dinner and then you have cookies, then you have ice cream, then you want popcorn, you want 5 other things before you can settle down. Or maybe your big meal is lunch, maybe you fast, maybe your big meal is lunch, but you can't get enough food and you're craving more. That's one of the ways that I usually pick it up when I take a history.
And this could be tested on a lab if people are leptin resistant?
People can speak to their doctors about the appropriate tests where they are.
It's interesting. I heard in my head someone go, oh my God, I went to the restaurant. I had leptin resistance yesterday. I couldn't stop eating. Sometimes it comes, every Sunday I get a little bit of leptin resistance when I go out with my friends.
Thank you. It takes time to develop it. You may have a little bit of it. You may notice this about yourself, but you're correct, Dr. G. It's not a one-off thing. It's more a change in your pattern of eating, and there are tests that can be done. For me, it's much more of a clinical diagnosis, and it's a diagnosis of different symptoms that are going on. But if you're starting to wonder, am I feeling a little unhealthy, or you notice that it's been harder to lose the weight, but you're still exercising. One of the things about metabolism, never assume that someone who has even a little overweight is not exercising or working to lose the weight or working to be healthier.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're dealing with other things physically, metabolically, that, they have to deal with, and they are trying. So that, I think, is also important culturally for us to understand.
Yeah, 100%. So what happens, because I know a lot of people viewing and listening, this happens to them. They eat. And maybe they even had a healthy meal. They had a plant-based and a little bit of carbs, a lot of protein, good. They feel good. Yeah. They I ate healthy. But then they, after every meal, go, I need a little sweet treat. I need a little chocolate, or I need a little something, like maybe a gummy or something. What's happening in the body there?
Yeah. Well, a few different things. One is, I think that there's a certain level of conditioning that, we have a dessert after we eat. It's when you go to a restaurant, they always offer you the dessert menu or the dessert tray or whatever it is. Part of it is conditioning. I'm not going to necessarily say that it's something that's abnormal. I think it's the choice you make. If you're eating a tub of ice cream every evening or cakes, cookies every night, I'm not saying don't have a piece of cake on your birthday. If that's what you enjoy, that's your birthday. Enjoy it. I'm just wanting you not to eat that every single day. Yeah. So I think A, it's conditioning. B, sometimes people just feel like, I want something now I've eaten my savory food and enjoyed it. I want a little sweet. Well, there are lots of ways to do that, and you don't have to do it unhealthily. You can make ice cream made from fruit like bananas, and you can even make a chocolate flavor with a dark natural cacao, which is actually great flavanols for your brain. You can have a little clementine with a piece of extra dark chocolate, one of my favorite things to do. And here's a tip. So it turns out that there are many, especially women of childbearing age, who are iron deficient in the world. Often gets overlooked. So they may, in fact, have a form of anemia and not know it. Well, it turns out that chocolate, extra dark natural chocolate, the cacao, contains one of the largest sources of plant-based iron, right? But here's the kicker. It's not the same as the heme iron from things like beef or other meats. When it's plant-based, it actually needs vitamin C to be absorbed. So the clementine and the dark chocolate are a great treat. It's helping your iron, keeping your iron levels up, good for your body anyway. If you're a woman, even more important. But there are ways to think out of the box to find solutions for those things we want. It doesn't have to be the very large piece of cheesecake. It doesn't have to be, the ice cream. There are healthier ways to do this. And that's all I want people to be thinking about.
I have a little confession. That question was for me, actually. After every meal, I'm like, okay, I need a little chocolate, or I need a little something to nibble on.
I feel like I grew up in a family where, there was always something.
Yeah.
It was fresh fruit or something. There was always something. Sometimes it was ice cream. Sometimes it was cake.
Yeah.
So I, too, kind of look for that. And so I've had to figure out for myself, what are the ways I can do this in a better way for me?
It was funny. I lived with this partner once, and we would always have like this chocolate stacked up, for just to nibble on.
Right.
But it would be gone. It'd be gone in a few days. And I'm like, we ain't nibbling. We're just eating it at this point. So
we call it nibbling, but actually we're eating the whole thing.
So we made a rule of having like 2 a week, 2 little bars to last for the week. One for her, one for me.
Right.
And we just went through that process. But I've actually done the clementine and the chocolate, or an orange, just like a few
even
orange slices.
Piece of orange.
Oh my God, what a mix!
It's a combination that I really love.
Bitter, sweet. It's just
it's delicious. And sometimes for a little bit of a kicker, I'll put on a little pinch of like sea salt.
Now, listen. Now you're really shaping this up. Now this is you're taking it to the next level. A little bit of sea salt on that. I mean, like, so viewers, listeners, try it out.
Yeah,
try it out. Just maybe after dinner. You looking for something? This is a good one.
And I'll tell you, Dr. G, sometimes as I get my, when I get the eye roll, right? When I say you can eat chocolate, but it has to be dark chocolate. No, I like candy bars. Everyone likes candy bars because they're loaded with sugar, right? That's not the chocolate we're talking about. But as I get my patients to try extra dark natural chocolate, one of the things that's really encouraging, and they come back and say a month or two later, I started it. I didn't like it at first. And there are others who like dark chocolate and it's easier for them. But those who are not used to dark chocolate will say, I tried it. And what I notice now, Dr. Uma, is I have a square of dark chocolate, a small square, that clementine or piece of orange, or however they pair it up, maybe it's blueberries, and I feel really good. And I no longer want to eat the whole bar. And I share it, and I actually get that, and I savor it throughout the week, and I enjoy it. So it's almost as though, our palate changes, our taste changes, all of that. And if they ever do get a candy from their kids, or it's Halloween or something, they actually don't like that chocolate anymore that they were eating.
Same. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I can have like dark chocolate, good quality.
Yeah.
But I can't have like a Snickers or a Mars.
It's so sweet.
It's too much. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
There are benefits to our mental health for eating dark chocolate.
Yes.
And what are they and why?
Great question. So extra dark natural chocolate contains cacao. It also is a probiotic because it's how cacao is processed to make chocolate. It's a fermented product. It has things like magnesium. It has serotonin in it. And it has these very rich cacao flavonols. So, and then it's that source of iron plant-based source of iron that we mentioned. All of those help anxiety. And we know that eating things that are fermented, we know that these foods that have probiotics are great for our gut. So you're doing your body a lot of good, and you're hitting a lot of high notes and different nutrients that you're getting. And that's why we talk about that extra dark natural chocolate. That can help you. So I say to people who come in feeling like, oh, well, I know you're going to tell me I can never eat cake or whatever it is. But, there are options that you can get used to. And I promise you, try this out for a couple of months, and you won't want to eat the Snickers bar because it will be so sweet to your taste receptors that you'll feel, I can't eat this, And when that happens, it doesn't happen to everyone, but when it happens, it's a very big kind of marker of that adaptation that their body has undertaken.
Beautiful. You mentioned fiber a little bit earlier on, and we were talking about gut-brain and brain connection. I know it seems to me that there's like new studies coming out every week on gut-brain connection. And I haven't really talked about it much on the show for a while, but is there any really powerful stuff that is being revealed, even more so that, holy moly, like the microbiome, the connection to our brain is imperative, and we have to optimize it. And if so, how do we optimize it?
I'd love to tell you about the study. It's in a different condition, and I mostly covered a lot of this in book one in my book called "This Is Your Brain on Food." But I always shared because it was really uncovering very powerful research that shocked me, even as a practicing psychiatrist of close to 2 decades. In a chapter that I wrote about schizophrenia, which is one of the most serious mental health conditions, usually requires medication treatment. Sometimes people have relapses and get so sick they need to be in the hospital. But it's a serious mental health condition. But there are also individuals who can function and don't need that level of care, but they may still need the medications because they may have active psychotic symptoms, etc. In this study, Dr. G, they removed the microbiome from individuals when humans with diagnosed schizophrenia. And they took some of the microbiome in a fecal transplant and they placed it in germ-free mice. So germ-free mice have never been exposed to any microbes. They're raised in a lab, and it is an animal study. But the symptoms that these individuals had of schizophrenia were active. When they put their microbiome into the mice, over time, those mice developed symptoms of schizophrenia. I think what was so powerful about that is, A, I think the experiment was conducted very well. And B, it tells us how powerful that microbiome is, that it could actually create the same symptoms in a different organism or different in an animal, from a human to an animal. And, it was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Because I've seen and treated these conditions in humans, and I realized, wow, if that is the power of the microbiome in a serious condition, there must be a way that we can use this to harness its power to help us with conditions that almost everyone is experiencing these days: a low mood, anxiety, traumatized from something, all of the stuff that is so critical in mental health. Why not use that power to help ourselves every day?
Yeah, and we can. So what is your favorite ways to really target the optimization of our gut microbiome in order for us to feel better mentally healthy? I mean, the schizophrenia piece was crazy. So do we have that much power in influencing the health of our microbiome?
We do. We do certainly by food. We've touched a little bit on that, and I'll come back to that. But the other thing that impacts our microbiome is things like stress. If you fight with, a partner, you have a difficult day at work, you're stressed about a certain situation, maybe it's your kids, whatever it might be. We know that emotional stress gets translated directly to those microbes, and they start to react to it. So stress is a big factor, and I think us just learning to manage our stress is important. But another thing is how we're eating. So if we are only going to the fast food restaurants and eating those unhealthy foods and eating the processed, ultra-processed foods and tons of the sugar, the bad microbes thrive. And when they thrive, they overcome the good microbes and they take over the microbiome. And that's when you get dysbiosis over time, a leaky gut over time. But that's also when I see an uptick of mental health symptoms. People get more anxious. People who were previously doing well suddenly are feeling more depressed, brain fog, lack of focus. So it becomes, it's all interconnected. So for the health of the microbiome, managing our stress, having a daily practice like a meditation or mindfulness, whatever that means for you, making sure that you exercise, hydrating enough, sleeping well. All of this, managing all of these things becomes important. But for your food, one of the best things you can do is lean into the fiber. Leaning into fiber means you're feeding those gut microbes, and also the different colors in the plants that we talk about, the bright colors that you referred to on the plate. One of the reasons we should be eating them is the plant polyphenols from these different foods actually nurture the microbes. And what are the microbes doing? One of the things they're doing down there in our microbiome is there are trillions of them, but there's also 90 to 95% of things like serotonin and serotonin receptors in the gut. So as they're working away to manufacture and help with serotonin production, they are making breakdown products which help those neurotransmitters get to the brain. So it's things when you break it down to that level, you realize, well, it's a little bit more important why we should be eating fiber, why we should be nurturing the microbiome.
And when you say 95% of the receptors, so essentially you're saying the state of our gut is closely mirroring and mimicking the state of our mental health?
It is. And the way to think about it is sort of like something that I say all the time is a happy gut is a happy mood, an anxious gut is a worried mood. So the way that the microbes are responding is definitely impacting your mental health. But I think if anything, I want people to know that they can intervene by how they eat. But if they're developing more and more of an unhealthy gut, then they're going to have an uptick of these symptoms.
I got a crazy question that just came up when you're talking about this now. If someone has we won't even say a food allergy, just an intolerance.
Yep.
If they just know they can't eat that food,
Mm-hmm.
is it more because of an imbalanced gut, or is it more genetically that their body doesn't want to eat it?
That's an interesting question. My understanding from functional gastroenterology is that a lot of those, say, food intolerances, not a full-blown allergy where, you can die from the allergy.
Right.
That's very serious, and I know that's different. But it could be that there's dysbiosis, and some of what needs to happen is to heal your gut, work with the right practitioner, to eat differently, to work on a holistic and integrated method to really help heal your gut, and maybe those symptoms will get better and you'll be able to eat that food.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also practitioners who can do genetic testing and test to see what it is that's going on with you that could be needed. So I've seen a little bit of both, but I think for me, because I do believe that many of us are just walking around with dysbiosis, that one way to think about it is try working with the clinician who can help with your gut healing and see if I've heard this can be successful. I've been able to get people to say eat legumes months later after working on gut healing. Also have individuals who eat something as a child and they come to me and say, as an adult, I can no longer eat, the legumes that my mom would feed me, and I don't know what's going on with me. So sometimes that, can be corrected over time.
Do you think that a lot of these intolerances that we see are mostly the dysbiosis, or is there a role with pesticides?
I think it's all connected. I think it's the pesticides in our food. I think it's environmental toxins. You and I talked about mold earlier. It's many, many different things. It's pollution. It's everything that our body as an organism, as a whole organism, is being exposed to.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, I think an easy way to get started is to see what can we do with the gut microbiome. And we know that the gut and brain are connected. So the field that I practice in nutritional psychiatry, by using the gut as one of the mechanisms, it's an easy way to get to work with someone and improve their mental health over time. Mm-hmm. But I think there are many different causes that impact the changes that we experience.
Yeah. And like when I used to be in practice and work with helping people, really healing the gut, one of the big things was, hey, let's be more aware of what's putting in while we're healing.
Right.
We want to make sure we're not putting any more fires in there while we're putting out the big forest fires,
Correct.
Really important, that inflammation piece. How big of a role is sugar in the imbalancing of our gut? Does it imbalance our gut if we have, too much sugar in a day?
Yeah. So we firstly want to differentiate between, because I get this question all the time on social media, we want to understand the types of ways that we consume sugar. Eating a candy bar is very different from an apple. And I don't mean a candied apple, I mean just an apple. Another thing is eating berries. Yes, it has sugar in it, but it's a healthier form of sugar. And with fruit, you want to stay within a couple of servings a day and eat the whole fruit. Because those are and frozen is fine, because flash frozen fruit don't have anything added, and always read the label to see there's no added sugar. But unfortunately, when we have too much of the unhealthy refined sugars, they impact neurons directly over time. And I think that that's something people don't realize. The other thing that happens is sugar drives cravings. And there's a lot of science behind cravings and different information. But one of the things I see in my practice is people get hooked on it. And then we know from research that sugar, taps into the same receptors in the dopamine reward system as things like cocaine. So when someone comes in and tells me I'm addicted to sugar, I actually pay attention because they're noticing something about their craving for sugar that they want to start changing. So there's the science behind that, but also I think that people don't think or realize that they think, well, if I eat too much sugar, I'm going to gain weight. Yes, probably, but it's also going to affect your brain,
Yeah.
and it's going to affect your mental health.
Yeah. A lot of people have the sugar addiction without even knowing it.
Not knowing
Right?
it.
They're just because it doesn't have to look like you're eating candy all the time. It could just look like you want to eat white bread and pasta all the time.
Because
and
all of those convert.
carbohydrate
That's
heavy.
right.
Yeah.
That's
So it's we want to think about like how we're affecting ourselves. But when we think about the gut microbiome, I remember being worried about like just some people are predisposed to this overgrowth of yeast.
Yes.
And that yeast
Yes.
loves sugar. The candida yeast loves
Yes.
sugar.
Love sugar.
Big and very opportunistic organism that'll grow, especially when your immune system and your microbiome, the good healthy bacteria, are just kind of struggling. So, for people out there, like, do you have those symptoms of candida, right? Like the
Right.
brain fog, the bloating,
Yes.
the itching, the
Right.
fatigue, sometimes even muscle joint pain.
Right.
It's really diffuse in the symptoms. So I find that people who kind of like cut down on the sugar, all of a sudden they're like getting really anxious because they're having the withdrawals.
Right.
And we can go through these withdrawals. It's
I've seen it happen. Yeah.
you've seen it happen, right?
Yeah.
What do the withdrawals look like? Like they like sugar seeking behavior, but any physical expression of it?
People can feel uncomfortable. They can have feel like their pulse is high, or they have an elevated heart rate. They can feel irritable, moody. Almost physiologically feeling like they're missing something in their body.
Right.
And so the realistic way to really handle this, if I have someone, and I've had people who come in and they're drinking 6 to 8 cans of soda a day, so they don't drink water, but they drink soda with everything. And I literally have to think about it, believe it or not, like I do an alcohol withdrawal protocol in the hospital. So if you're treating someone in a detoxification center or in the hospital, say in the emergency room, and they're consuming a certain amount of alcohol, you very carefully have to monitor their symptoms. In that instance, offer them medication, wean them slowly off the alcohol, offer them certain B vitamins which they need, like thiamine and folate. Believe it or not, when someone is consuming that amount of sugar through things like soda, I actually start to wean them from, say, 8 cans. Let's go to 6 cans. Let's substitute the other 2 with water. And let's put in berries and fruit and citrus to make it interesting to you, because they're so used to the sugar that drinking water is boring. So I actually have to bring them down slowly. I don't ever say to them from 8 cans, go to 0, because then they will actively go into withdrawal. But some people try it on their own, and then they can feel quite uncomfortable.
And I think a lot of us don't realize that like sugar builds up. I forgot what Instagram post I watched this, but someone was talking about a plate, right? And they go, okay, this is a kid's meal.
Yeah.
We're gonna put this here.
Yeah.
Up, that's 9 grams of sugar. And then a
Okay.
kid's gonna have a yogurt here, that's 11 grams of sugar. And it ended up being like 55, 60 grams of sugar in one sitting for a child. So I don't think we realize that there's hidden sugars that are also in our meals, added sugars, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So we think we're eating healthy, but a lot of these healthy foods have these hidden sugars. And then when we bring that to our awareness, and then we go, oh, then I'm just going to move away from that, there's still some sort of withdrawal
Yes.
symptoms. For someone who's struggling with skin, like eczema, psoriasis, acne, could there be a sugar component for that?
There could be a sugar component. But a lot of the time, I feel like the first link I want to find is to the gut, because I found that and it could be sugar, that's an issue for them, that by working on gut healing, the skin conditions will heal. Sometimes it'll be joint pain that heals. But sugar is definitely involved, because, when we go back to what we said earlier, sugar's helping those bad microbes thrive. And when they thrive, they're just going to wreak havoc. They're going to, whether it's a candida, whatever it is, they're just going to wreak havoc. So when they take over, it's not good for our bodies.
And like you said, that worried gut, we're mimicking it as worried people. I actually have been thinking a lot about this lately. 'Cause I've been in nature.
Yeah.
And, when was it? Yesterday, I sat on a rock and I closed my eyes and I meditated. And I was asking the nature around me for answers, right?
I love that.
And I kept getting this.
Yeah.
The gut is the soil. The soil of nature is our gut.
Yeah.
We're just a microcosm, but connected fully. So the soil of nature.
Yeah.
So now we're thinking about how do we treat our soil in nature? And then it hit me. I'm like, it's been degraded for so many years.
Yeah.
We've sort of adulterated our soil, stripped it of its nutrients, and our gut's suffering only because it's mimicking and mimicking nature. Listen, I don't know. Maybe I was just getting weird downloads, but for me, it made a lot of really good sense.
Yeah.
So it's about reestablishing the importance of the soil, having food grown in good soil, and then eating that food.
Yes.
That's a big part of having it. Are you a fan of like the farmers markets, or is this better than just going to like Whole Foods?
When I have access, I try to use farmers markets. I try to use CSAs, farms that grow foods locally near me, that will offer delivery, or sometimes you put your order together and you can pick it up. I encourage people to do that. It's supporting your local farmers, and they are trying to do good practice with, whatever they're doing with their soil, but organic farming practices and farmers markets. Are good ideas. But that being said, going back to my position on equity and having autonomy, sometimes people only have access to a certain supermarket.
Yeah.
And so what can I buy in a less fancy supermarket than some others that is still healthy for my kids? So I feel like having the spectrum of options for people is important. Personally, if I go to a supermarket, I try to get organic, and sometimes I don't always have access to a farmer's market depending on where I am. So I think these things are important options for people to have.
Yeah, and look, you're in New York. You live in New York.
Part-time, yeah.
Okay, part-time.
in New
So
York.
we know come winter that Union Square Market is closed up.
That's correct.
Right?
It's gone.
No one's going there.
So
you're taking advantage
it's
of
too
the
cold,
CSAs and things like that.
correct.
We're lucky out here in California. We got them all year round.
Yes.
And we have some fantastic food markets. But
Yeah.
one thing that I do is I see like the sign. I don't see a USDA organic label. So I say, hey,
Yeah.
do you guys grow your produce
Yeah.
organic? Now, I'll get one of two energies behind the answer. Some people will be like, absolutely, and here's how long we've been doing it, and
Right,
here's what
right,
we
right,
use,
right.
and here's why we love our produce, and we give back. And I was like, gotcha, that's truly.
Okay.
Then some people are like, yeah, we try to be organic.
Right.
And I'm like,
That's
okay, you ain't organic. You don't even
It's-
try.
yes,
So this is the way
yes,
to
it's-
tell. When they're doing
Yeah.
organic practices
They
but can't
know.
get the
Yeah.
label, they are on it. And just ask your farmer.
Yeah.
But I find
like that.
farmers market food is, and maybe I'm just sensitive to this, more alive. Even if the blackberries from the farmers market
Yeah.
are I get a couple blackberries from there, one from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
They taste different. They're more
They
alive.
completely
They have
taste
more life
different.
energy.
You are correct about that. I have really loved the fact that I found a CSA the past couple of years. And what I find is I get my little delivery, and the food, the vegetables specifically, taste delicious. Like the grape tomatoes, even the lettuce, everything just tastes different. And what I notice is even if I'm storing it appropriately, if I'm not using it after a few days, it starts to go bad.
Yeah.
And that was mind-blowing to me because, I could probably have had broccoli, which I love, from the supermarket for a few weeks in the fridge. And I don't really think about it. I know it's not fresh like when I bought it, but what is that really telling me? Yeah. So I think that even with healthy foods that I love and enjoy, it makes a very big difference to the flavor, the taste, the freshness to get it that way because it's closer to when it actually was grown and delivered to you. So when you can.
The best salad I've ever had was, I was just telling this story today. That's crazy. I was at my friend's house in San Diego.
Yeah.
And we came back from something and she goes, "Oh, I'm going to make us a salad." I go, "Great." And I wanted to help. So I opened the fridge
Yeah,
and like I look at and I'm like, "Oh, you don't even have anything."
You don't have greens.
And she's like, "Oh, you forgot." "No, Christian, I have the garden up there." I said, "Oh, the garden, that's right." She goes up 15 minutes later, comes back down 10 minutes later, has a bunch of all of these greens, strawberries, romaine.
Amazing, amazing.
Within 8 minutes of her coming down, she makes me a salad.
Wow.
And I sit down and I eat it. And it was just picked probably less than an hour ago.
Yeah.
To date, I've never felt this energy flowing from my feet to my knees to my whole body.
Delicious,
it felt
yeah.
like I was in another country. Isn't that sad that we have to say I'm in another country eating food?
That is such an interesting experience. And it is sad that we have to say we're in another country, and yet we live in a country which is so abundant in food. Right. And as we do have hunger, but it's less than other countries. But it's so true. I especially notice that other members of my family will say, "Oh, these tomatoes are different from what I had last week." Because last week I might have had to get it from the supermarket.
Right.
And this week I'm back and I get my CSA delivery, and they'll be like, "These are delicious. These tomatoes are so sweet. Did you add sugar to them?" Obviously I didn't, but that kind of stuff, because they're so juicy and they're so delicious and they're so fresh. And I've also had that when I invite people over and I've made the salad using the greens or whatever, and people, they may not describe it as eloquently as you did with that energy feeling, but, "Oh, this is delicious. Salad in the restaurant never tastes this way."
Yeah.
And I think I think the more we become aware and the more we think out of the box about what our specific options are and try them, I think that we can heal ourselves with food, and we can tap into calming our mind, because we've become an anxious nation, and I think that we need to empower ourselves with the food decisions we make.
And it stuck with me when you said worried gut, or
Yes.
your gut is anxious, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be worried. It's so closely mirrored. But the take home for that is, hey, go support your farmer's market. I mean,
Yes.
if you're going to spend all this money at Whole Foods or even Sprouts, it's going to be comparable, maybe a little cheaper some, a little more expensive some. But at the end of the day, you're going to be supporting your farmer, and for the most part, it's going to be so fresh that it's going to be going bad pretty quick. So make sure you eat it fast too.
That's right. So you are pressed to use it in that week or whatever it is, and enjoy it. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I know that you are so passionate about cooking and chefing. What are some, for someone like me who likes to eat but doesn't love cooking?
Right.
What are some fundamental rules on combinations, on flavors, on spices? How do I make myself become a chef that goes, okay, I know how to make healthy food, but I know how to make it good?
I think one of the secrets is building up your spice cabinet. Because spices, if you just buy pure spice, and again, you can get these organic at good supermarkets, build up on a repertoire of spices you like and make sure it's the pure spice. Blends might have added salt, which you don't need. So read what's in the blend before you buy it, or just buy the pure spices, but go with the flavor profile that you like. For some, it might be Mexican. For someone else, it might be Italian. For me, it would be, tapping into Indian and South Asian flavors. That's a good start, because with spices, you can flavor up whatever you're cooking, from eggs to a salad to a piece of tofu to anything that you're making, to a steak, whatever it is. Another good tip is go simple. Rely on the flavors and even fresh herbs, things like garlic, if you eat garlic, and I love garlic, onions, things like that, which not only are rich prebiotics, easy to use, and you can make a simple recipe with some fresh herbs, some garlic, and salt and pepper. So start with simple profiles that are not overwhelming. For example, if I said to you, here's my grandmother's recipe for an Indian curry, there are lots of steps to it. And trust me, if we worked together and we figured out the cooking thing, it would be fine. But it's overwhelming to read 15 spices in a recipe. So start slow, go with flavors you like, go with simple recipes, whether it's your salads, your steaks, your tofu, your tempeh, whatever it is. And I promise you, just simple steps, simple ingredients will make it work for you.
I love that. Build up the spice cabinets. Let's say someone who's listening, they're like, I don't really cook like me. What are the top 4 spices that I need to have in there that are like best bang for the buck,
Right.
flavorful, and like these are the ones.
Right. So I'm going to start with herbs because easy, especially in California, for us to get herbs, garlic, onions, scallions, that type of family. Easy way to flavor up food that way. In terms of your spice cabinet, I would go with my favorites, which are turmeric with a pinch of black pepper. The black pepper improves the absorption of curcumin in turmeric by about 2,000%. Easy hack to do. You can use it in a soup, a smoothie, a tea, in your eggs, wherever it is, tofu, whatever you're cooking. Another one that I like is chili. So I go with capsaicin from the chili because I like spicy food. But if that's not for you, go with paprika, which is made from red peppers. Also great, a good flavor profile there. And then I like to mix it up a little bit. I like to go with things like oregano, because I can then vary from more of a pure Indian stream flavor into other things that I enjoy as well. And the other one that I like is, believe it or not, peppermint. And I like peppermint because, I can make a peppermint tea, and peppermint has luteolin, which helps brain fog. So it's a pick-me-up, in the evening, in the afternoon, just to give me a little bit of energy. I know that that's going to be something I can both cook, and I can add it to salads, I can add it to stir-fries. But it's just something to think about. So it's a very, very different spices. But if I were to cook only sort of South Asian cuisine, I'd go with coriander, cumin, chili, and turmeric. If I were to cook Italian food, I would go with oregano, basil, fresh or dried, garlic, onions. So think maybe about where you want to start with the type of food you want to cook and build out like even 4 or 5 spices in that realm. And remember, you always need salt for your food. My preference is kosher salt because it's more pure, and just a sprinkle of that.
You got my mouth watering right now. I'm thinking about all the flavors
that you can make.
I can make now. Now I'm so inspired. I have so many of these spices, and then when I'm ready to use them, it says like expired 2021. I'm like, no. So now you got me inspired to really re-up them. I love them. And these are all anti-inflammatory herbs.
Yes.
Some of them are antimicrobial. Some of them are just feeding the gut, like amazing stuff. Capsaicin has been one of my favorite overall just medicinal remedies for so much.
It does so many things. So like if you have a plate, try to spice it up. Doesn't have to be spicy like, ooh, it's too hot. It doesn't have to be hot. We're talking about flavor.
Make it flavorful and mix it up. Play around. Listen, some of the viewers and listeners are way better cooks than me, so I'm over here preaching to the choir. But for those of you out there, start it up. It's going to be really beneficial to you. Look, maybe for the third time, we got a whole nother, for your next book, because you're popping them out like crazy. I love this. But these books that you're putting out are so important.
Thank you.
This book coming out, what's the name of it?
Calm Your Mind with Food.
And when's it come out?
It's coming out December 26th of this year, 2023. It's also being released at other times internationally, but for the U.S. market, it comes out very soon. And it's really meant to be your guide to calm your mind using a holistic and integrated approach, from a protocol to grocery list to recipes. But first, I lay down kind of the science of why you're feeling this way. And I want people, Dr. G, to think of anxiety as something they harness to empower themselves rather than something that they're afraid of. Because I think that that's also a way for us to be autonomous and feel we have control over what's happening.
I love that you're saying this. And I love this book coming out because you're talking about calming the mind. And two of the biggest things that I find in my work after all these years that are driving disruption of mental health are the repressed emotions, which is the stuff I love talking about, and disruption from the foods that your body is not liking, foods that your gut is not liking. So you are highlighting such an important pillar. Here are the foods that are causing so much in your body, right? I've seen people come to me with emotional stuff, but their gut is just off, and we heal the gut, and they're like, I'm pretty centered now. And I've gone through that process where I know I'm eating healthy foods, my gut is happy, it's balanced, my mind is better, and I'm more parasympathetic. I'm not sweating. I'm not like anxious. So this is the real stuff. I want everyone to get that book as soon as it comes out. But thank you for putting your heart out, your work out, giving it to the people. You came here for the second time. I can't wait for the third. And I just appreciate your work so much.
Thank you, Dr. G. It's always lovely to talk with you. Some of the feedback I've heard about the book, and I thank you for appreciating the work, is that people are looking for solutions for anxiety on the internet, on social media, and places, and they're finding it very hard to distill the information. So I'm hoping that what this book will do is put it with the research in one place for you, so that you can share with your family, your friends, use it yourself, because I think all of us have just struggled more with anxiety, especially post-pandemic.
Yeah, and if it's like your first one, it will. I believe in it.
Thank you.
So awesome stuff. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you again for the third one maybe next year.
Definitely. Thanks, Dr. G.
You're welcome.